and welcome back to the channel. Today we're getting back on working on the Nova. We're going to, as if you've already watched one of the previous videos, you've already seen we've got the subframe out. Today we're going to start cleaning up the subframe, disassembling it, taking the suspension pieces off of it, and try to get it all cleaned up, ready for powder coat or paint. Might use POR 15, something that will coat it and keep it protected as we start putting, and then we'll start reassembling. But today it'll be mostly just the disassembly and clean up, so just follow along. Okay, I don't know if I showed this in a previous video, but the frame rails are bent. I just took a hammer and hit on this one and knock the top back down because this was raised up. On this side it's bent pretty good. I'm not sure if I've got the means to straighten this out myself, but we're going to give it a shot. It's dented down here pretty good, so we're going to try to get this straightened up. If I can't, we may end up having to buy a new subframe. But for now, we're just going to disassemble all the stuff off of this one and try to get it cleaned up. Alright, this is just a quick update showing what we've done. This is the passenger side. We've gotten the drum brake off, the backing plate, the wheel cylinder, brake line, all that stuff unhooked. Got the tie rod end out. The steering arm, which is this deal right here, that is loose, which I had to take those bolts loose to get the backing plate off. But just figured I'd give you an update on how far we've come. The next couple things are gonna start busting the ball joints loose, and of course I'm going to try to keep as many things in the way between me and that coil spring so it doesn't come out and hit me. So I'm going to leave the shock in, and I'm going to leave the anti-sway bar intact until I bust the ball joints loose, and then I'll start loosening up the screw for the shock and taking the tension off of that spring slowly. But when we come back, hopefully we'll be done with that, and I'll show you what it looks like then. Alright, we got the passenger side suspension completely removed, both A-arms, the spring, and the shock. So we're going to now move on to the driver's side and get it taken care of. We still got the anti-sway bar attached because I'm leaving it on the other side too to help limit that spring from coming out. This one here, it worked out really well. We used the shock to hold it in, then we used the sway bar and everything, and it released a little bit of pressure at a time instead of it releasing all its pressure all at once and trying to come out at us. So we'll move on to that other side, and I'll come back when we're done with it. All right, we're back. This is the next day. We got the passenger side off, front suspension off the other day. Now we took the driver's side off today, so I'll show you that. All right, we got that off. Took the steering box and drag link, tie rod ends and everything off with it. Still got to remove this brake line here and the anti-sway bar, and then I'm going to try to maybe cut and straighten this up and then weld it back together. We'll see how things go. If I can't get this to work right, then I'll probably end up having to buy a new subframe and that'll slow us down a bit, but it is what it is. We'll come back in a little while. I'll show you what I've attempted. Okay, here we are. So far all I've done is I've just blown them off a little bit, got some of the rust, dirt, and some of this coating off of it. I've taken the cotter keys out of the nuts so that I'm getting ready to just buzz them out with an impact tool, my air impact. And same thing with this one. This is the passenger side. Just a little bit of rust and stuff on it. It's all surface rust. Doesn't look like they've been damaged any. We're not reusing these spindles because we're going to convert this over to disc brakes. So we got to take those nuts off, and I'm just going to knock these off. I'm not worried about hurting anything. And I looked at these, and these are the original ball joints, at least on the top. They're riveted in. Usually the aftermarket come with bolts, and you just bolt them in place. I haven't really looked at these lower control arms because they're made differently, but my guess is that it's actually all original ball joints and bushings and all so on and so forth. So we'll get moving on that. Follow along. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to take these nuts off. Then you go get another extension. Okay, that ought to get us where we can get the impact in. Let me just blow them off. I'll go ahead and do this one over here while I'm at it. We got those off. I gotta go get the hammer. Alright, like I said before, I'm not reusing any of these, the ball joints or the spindles, so I'm not too concerned about hitting them with the hammer and messing them up, so I'm just going to hit it. It doesn't look like it wants to come loose like that, so go get the pickle fork. This is a pickle fork, and what you do is you stick it in between the ball joint and the spindle, and then you hit it. And usually you get lucky. My pickle fork might be too big. Not having any luck with it. This pickle fork might be too big for this little ball joint. So, one of the few things on this car so far that it hasn't come apart easy. But we'll get probably put some heat to it, put some WD on it, and between the heat and the WD it'll boil, and WD should work inside that, so we'll come back in just a minute. Alright, I got kind of caught up there, put the WD on it, put some heat to it. It's still quite hot. Just got it off. It took really 2 to 3 minutes, but I just got in a hurry and put the heat to it and then knocked it right loose. So we got that one done. Let me set it off to the side. Let's try to get this one. And my torch, while they don't get as hot as an acetylene torch, definitely does better than a propane torch, and it does a good job of cooking heat from this kind of stuff pretty quick. I already sprayed this with WD when I sprayed the other one. And of course it's catching the grease on fire. Gotta make sure I don't catch my table on fire. We heat up the area around the bolt, get it to expand, swell up some from the heat. A lot of times that's about all it takes. And that's about all I did on the other one too. And I flipped it over to the edge of the table here. And that's all it takes. It fell off. There it is. So we're going to let them cool down a little bit, and we got to come back and we have to drill out the rivets to get the ball joints out. So come back for that shortly. All right, I'm taking a succession of drill bits and drilling out these rivets. Took a punch and started knocking them out. There's a little bit left on this one here from around the edge, but we'll see if it'll come out. These two have already been loosened up. So there we go. Drilled it out. I even tried grinding the back sides, which doesn't work. But of course, you live and you learn. So that's ready to just clean up. Make sure that everything's good in it. That's our passenger side, so we'll set it back over here with the rest of the passenger side stuff. That. And we'll do the same thing on this. Kind of gotta knock that back out of the way. I might have to even take the boot off. And I just start out with a small screwdriver or a small drill bit and just work my way up in size. And then until I get to 5/16, 3/8. Then I have this thing here to take the flanges off the outside. As long as I don't go too deep and start cutting into the A-arm with it, I'm usually pretty good on that. But that's just to try to get the edges knocked out so it's thin enough that you can break them off. But then like I said, I go ahead and use the smaller drill bits to get the middle section drilled out so I can actually hit the rivets with a hammer and a punch. So we'll come back in a few minutes and I'll have this side done. All right, on this A-arm, I did a better job starting my holes, got them more centered. So I didn't even have to use the big drill bit at all. 3 of them, I knocked the cap off with 5/16. The last one over here, I got a little bit out of center. It did take the 3/8 to get it, but they're all ready to come out. All I got to do now is hit them. And that's how easy it is. Of course, I made the boot a little crispy with the fire a while ago with the torch. So it's having a little bit of trouble going back in the hole, but there we go. And again, this one's even better looking than the other one. So that'll be ready once I get it cleaned up to put that new ball joint in. So come back a little bit and we'll start We'll clean these up a little bit. Take the last couple things out of it, try to get it cleaned up, and then we'll go over that. All right, as you see here, this is the passenger side A-arm, and I did finally get these bushings out, the pivot bushings where the crossbar and adjustment bar was at. So I didn't show any of it, of course. This was certainly a fight. Those bushings, and here's the one of the shells. I had to heat them up, spray them with penetrant, heat them some more, and respray them again, and finally got them to loosen up, and used a press and then a hammer and a chisel, but I did finally get it out of this side. This side I haven't even started on. I sprayed it, I've heated it. I need to respray it again, or need to reheat it and then spray it. That's for the driver's side. And you know, unfortunately, this is what happens when you have a car that's 45 years old and these parts hadn't been changed before. You are going to have rust even here in the desert. So we did have issues getting those out, and they're usually a press fit anyway. And even my press, I was making the outer shells kind of out around, and you know, they were trying to bend and pinch and twist, and they just weren't coming out straight. So it took a while to get these loose. But now that I've done that on the first one, I should know a little bit more, you know, and these, barring anything spectacularly bad, this one should be easier to do than the first one. So we'll come back later once we got the second one out. I'm gonna apologize now for the wind. It is kind of windy here. Today, what I'm gonna do is try to get the bushing shells out of this A-arm. I got them out of the other one, but it's been a day or two since I got that done. Actually been 2 days. And these have been through like 3 heat cycles with a torch, and then it's been sprayed with penetrating oil at least 4 times. So hopefully this one will come apart. These will come out easier than the ones on the other one. That one took me a long time to get it out. They were really stuck, and it's kind of hard to get to it real well with the bar in place. I know that they make tools to do this job on a press, but when I stuck this into my press, it almost looked like it was trying to bend the arm in, and I didn't want that. So I'm actually just trying to hammer these out after heating and treating them and stuff. So let's see what we can do. Let's see what we can do with this. slowly but surely. As long as I don't mess up the end up too much inside. That one there, it is out. Should have done that on the other. Should have waited a lot longer to start trying to get it out. But not quite yet. And this one I can turn around and go this way. There's that one out. I wish I'd have waited a little bit longer to do that on the other one. You live and you learn. So that one came out pretty easy. So I'll get these cleaned up, and then when we come back, we'll do the we'll start working on the lower ball joint or lower A-arms, getting the ball joints out and the bushings out of them. So we'll be back with that one shortly.